Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We're glad you could join us. We're talking today with attorney Greg Perry, who is seeking to fill the unexpired term of Coffee County Sessions Court Judge Tim Brock, who unexpectedly passed away last November. Greg, we're glad to talk to you today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Greg, this is actually a primary election, but there are no Democrats in the race. You're running in the Republican primary, so whoever wins this primary is actually going to fill this seat. Is that correct?
That's correct. I think the newspaper has phrased it winner takes all. But because it is a Republican primary, if you go and declare Democrat, you won't have a chance or a choice to vote for your local judge. You won't have a chance to have a decision in who is holding a local position.
Right, right. And again, that's because there are no Democrats who are running in the Democratic primary for this.
That is correct. There's a few counties that their next elections are going to be nonpartisan elections where there's not a Republican-Democrat designation. However, in this case, we're still doing it the way we used to. There will be a Republican-Democrat primary, and you're required to make that election. And all the candidates, there are 4 candidates, and all are running under the Republican ticket.
Right, right. Tell us a little bit about Greg Perry. Tell us who he is and what he's done.
Well, my dad's originally from Tullahoma. My grandparents originally from Tullahoma. We moved back here when I was in 5th grade, attended elementary, middle school, and graduated from Tullahoma High School. Was fortunate enough to receive a scholarship to Motlow. You don't realize this, but you have a role in where I'm sitting today. You probably won't remember this, but back in 1986, I was fortunate enough to get the American Legion Scholarship, and it was at a time in my life I didn't know if I wanted to go to school, work, I'd maybe try the service. So I got a scholarship, and I thought, well, what do I got to lose? We'll try it. And we got our picture made the newspaper, me and you, and afterwards you put a little pressure on me, and I'm competitive by nature, and you said you're the 13th student to receive this scholarship.
Right.
Every student that's received it prior to you has graduated. Don't let us down. So I had more writing on it then than just myself.
And you didn't.
And I didn't.
Right.
I didn't. I graduated Motlow, went on to MTSU, and ultimately went to law school at Nashville School of Law. Lived in Tullahoma through college. I lived in Manchester for the past 18 years. I've been in private practice in Manchester for 13 years. In practice with my brother-in-law. We're a family-owned and operated business, and he is from Jackson, Tennessee, as well as my wife. We have 2 children. We moved back to Manchester. He just happened to have met a woman from Warren County. I was from Coffee County. He wanted to be here, so we chose Manchester kind of halfway between, and doing it for 13 years.
Okay. So you must like it.
Well, I love the community. I've been here a long time. Like I say, I went to school here. I've got a 16-year-old son that's going to Coffee County, 26-year-old daughter that went to Coffee County, so I've got roots on both sides of the county.
I see, I see. What, yeah, by the way, his dad is Dwight Perry. A lot of you folks know his dad, and he and I played baseball together and grew up together kind of, and were involved in the Sons of the American Legion when Greg was talking about that scholarship. And actually we are awful proud of it in that respect.
Thank you.
At what point did you think, I want to be an attorney, or I want to be involved in the justice system?
Well, I was the golf professional out at Willowbrook. When it opened back in '95, was there through '98. Been in the golf business for about 12 years. Worked every weekend for 12 years.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, there's got to be more to life than working 6 days a week, 60, 70 hours a week. So I decided to take a different path. I knew if I wanted to be here in Coffee County, I really needed to have a profession. So I decided I wanted to go to law school. And I did that, and I moved back, and I think I'm working 60, 70 hours a week again, but maybe not necessarily every weekend.
Where were you living, did you say?
I moved to Murfreesboro when I was going to law school. I worked for State Farm Insurance there for 9 years.
I see, okay. Talk a little bit about your law practice and the kind of things that you experienced and did in that law practice.
Well, we decided to open up here in Manchester with no guarantees, not a single client. We hung a shingle up and we worked hard to try to build it. In hindsight, don't know if that was the smartest decision or not, but it's worked out very well. But being in a small town, we do a little bit of everything. I specialize in domestic law, family law, do many mediations. I do about 120 mediations a year that involve domestic and family law matters, estate matters, some civil matters. Usually carry 50 to 60 juvenile court cases at a time, representing parents as well as guardian ad litem work for children. Town attorney for the city of Bell Buckle, and really you do a little bit of everything in a small town to pay the light bills and make a living.
How scary was it when you guys opened up and you had no clients? And was that a little bit intimidating for you?
It was a big commitment. My brother-in-law had given his job up in Knoxville to move here, and I gave up my job with no income, with hopes and dreams of making it. So yeah, it was very scary.
How long was it before you actually got some clients? Do you remember your first client?
I remember my first client vividly.
Yeah.
I was appointed in juvenile court to represent a parent whose children had been removed because they had promotion of methamphetamine charges, which was a Class B felony, and removal of their children. So it doesn't get much more severe than that.
Right.
And we're facing termination of parental rights, and so I didn't get started off with something that was a small case. I kind of got thrown in the fire and trial by fire.
Did that move you into wanting to do more of that kind of work, you think?
Well, I think because that's where we started, and at the time we went to our local judges and told them that we were new and we'd like to do court-appointed work. That's where we started, and because I've started that, I think I grew comfortable with it. It's an area of expertise that I learned, so I've continued to do so.
I see. What were you saying? You do a lot of mediations as well?
Yes.
Explain that. I think I might know what that is, but explain that to me.
Mediation is a process where there's a dispute on one side or the other. And
within a family?
It could be a family, it could be a contract, it could be an estate with members of the family disagreeing on how property should be divided. Most of it, the majority, it's family law and parenting. But our courts require, we have a local court rule, before you can submit your disputes to the judge, you have to attend mediation, which gives you the opportunity to hopefully have some say in what happens with your property, your debts, and most importantly, your children. I believe individuals know their children better than anybody that would sit on the bench and here's 5 to 6 hours of testimony and says, I think this is what's appropriate. Fortunate enough, I did 123 mediations last year, and we settled 90% of those, where the individuals had some say in what happens, and it's just the process of trying to find some common ground between the parties, hopefully trying to find some common sense between the parties, and giving them an opportunity to resolve their differences with some say.
Do those kind of situations sometimes get a little testy?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, usually all of them start out testy. If they were agreeable or amenable, we probably wouldn't be there. They would have resolved it on their own. So it takes a little time to build some rapport and trust with them, and to speak with them and kind of explain the process and explain that this is their opportunity to have some decision in it. And most people are rational and come to a decision, some reluctantly. I tell every client when they come in, if we agree to something today, you're going to both walk out of the front door disappointed, because it will take some give and take on both sides. And usually that's the case going to trial. Neither party gets exactly what they want, and they walk out with a little bit of disappointment.
I would imagine, though, you probably gain a little bit of satisfaction, though, from being able to settle it without actually being in court.
Well, as I said earlier, I'm kind of competitive by nature, so I go in with the thought that we're going to settle this. I have many that I go in and the first thing the attorney says is, we're not going to settle this today. And we've settled many of those. So being competitive by nature, I try to do what's best for both parties. my thoughts are that is to not turn that over for a court to make a decision, because you may not get what you want.
Right. You've done some volunteer work related to some court things, I think, as well, and probably have other interests in your spare time.
I have.
Talk about a little bit about that.
I have been charter member of our drug court board in Manchester. For those of you not familiar with our drug court program, it started 14 to 15 years ago. Once it became a 401c3, a nonprofit, that's when I became a board member in a volunteer capacity. Everybody thinks of drug court as a stigma. Not everybody, but many. But it encompasses a lot more than just drug court. It's drug court, mental health court, our veterans court, family treatment court, our safe baby court. All of those are under the same umbrella and entail a lot of the same training and treatment protocols, but they're named different due to grant funding and things like that. But it's a program in which individuals have the opportunity to seek alcohol and drug treatment at no cost. It's not an easy program. There's not a high percentages that start that finish. But the ones that do have the opportunity, and the recidivism rate of the ones that do complete it is much better, almost 50% more than any other program that we've tried in the past. Usually takes 12 to 18 months to go through the program, a lot of accountability, and we've seen some real success stories.
And that has got to be gratifying for everybody involved in that sort of thing.
It is. You know, any time that you can see families reunited, that's a good thing. But most importantly, battling addiction, that's where many of our crimes come from, children in foster care. If we can break that cycle, that's the problem with addiction, is it usually becomes a cycle. I've been practicing long enough where I'm now representing parents with kids that I represented as the guardian ad litem because their parents had the same issues.
Oh my goodness.
It's about breaking that cycle.
Right.
I was very involved in our Little League baseball in Manchester and Manchester Youth Baseball, coached for 7 years, and travel ball teams and all-star teams. That was a passion of mine.
Did you play baseball as well?
I did, through Babe Ruth.
Yeah, right.
I was always the smallest kid, so I didn't have much of a chance after that.
I understand that concept. What moves you to now want to be sessions judge?
I think that's a good question. I think what many people don't understand, and one of the questions that I get all the time in the practice of law is, how can you represent that individual? And ethically and morally, sometimes that's a tough decision. And when you go to law school, they teach you the law. They teach you the things that you need to know regarding the law, but they don't teach you the things about the client sitting on the other side of the table. Many times we don't have a choice in who we represent. If you're indigent in this state, you're entitled to representation for any crime that's committed, or if your children have been removed, or a termination of parental rights. So the judge calls up and says, Mr. Perry, we've got a case appointment for you, and we'll send you the file. Those files aren't good. They're crimes, they're drug crimes, they're parents who have committed atrocities against children that we can't imagine in this county, but you have a duty to represent them for two reasons. You've got to ensure that the process works, and the judge says you're appointed. So I would like to have the ability to follow the law, make decisions that I think is right for the members of our community, for the victims of crime, and for the youth of the community, versus advocating what my client wants, whether that may be in some other's best interest or not.
What are some of the issues and challenges that you view as in the court system today that probably could be improved or could probably change?
I think the opiate addiction has gotten a lot of attention, statewide, nationwide. Is it a problem here? Absolutely. We spoke about the treatment courts and the effect that they can have, but you can only do so much to help people. First of all, they've got to want to help themselves, and second of all, you've got to have money to provide the services. We can only do so much with the money that we have in our treatment courts, and I would hope that those grow and expand. However, some of that funding now has been cut already. As of August, we've lost some state grant money, so our drug court is right now not accepting any new participants.
How many people can you handle in that drug court?
They've got usually anywhere from 35 to 40 adults in providing services. That's going to cut with the grant funding money. There are other options available. We have some options through our probation services, and our probation officers can make recommendations. They may not be through our family treatment court, but we have the ability to provide some more services. And I think that we need to look and expand and give as many of those services as we possibly can without denying people who want the treatment. The problem is getting the people who want the treatment, because many times they have to hit rock bottom, and we expect that. But we need to be able to have those services there to provide them when they ask for them. And I do think we've got some options, and we need to explore all those options. Another issue I think that we have is it's kind of a shocking statistic. I'm not sure the figures at this moment, but 2 years ago we had more children in foster care than any other county in the state per capita.
Oh my goodness.
Per our population. I grew up here. I didn't see that. I'm sure that it was, it was an issue then, but I think that has grown. Our juvenile dockets right now are 9 pages every day. We have many children in foster care, and we, as the court system, we have to provide for those children and their safety. Hopefully we can implement some programs to reduce those numbers, and that's just the children in foster care. That's not the children that are in care of family members, friends, grandparents, etc. They're not included in that statistic. Another issue that's been brought to my attention several times by several members of our education community. I have been appointed many times on truancy cases. And I've always been appointed to represent the parent. My job is to ensure they don't go to jail. Been successful most of the time on that, but I didn't realize how big the issue was until some people have reached out to me. But we do have an issue with attendance, and when I say attendance, I'm not talking about 4 or 5 days. We have kids that don't go to school 30 days, 60 days in a semester. Parents can be held responsible and can serve time. Actually, they can serve 10 days. They can
actually serve time?
They can serve 10 days for every day their child misses. The problem that we have is we've got many single parents. We've got teenage kids that they can't get up. They're bigger than them, running that many times. I don't know that I'd put a parent in jail the first time, but I think we'd give them the opportunity to get that child and review it regularly. And if that child's not going to school, a little jail time may not hurt. It may get some attention. I know when I grew up, I didn't have a choice.
No.
I didn't even ask. That wasn't a consideration. But it's a twofold problem. Not only are the kids that are not going to school, it's going to be a societal problem in the future. It's obviously going to affect their employability and their future to do things. But it also affects our taxpayers in the fact that every day that child misses, that's grant money that our schools don't receive, funding that we don't receive for our teachers and our education system. So there's really some significant things that come, other than just the education aspect, that affects every student in our schools.
In talking with you, Greg, it's phenomenal to me that this office you seek involves this many things. It is quite involved. It's not just the normal misdemeanor thing, but you deal with those as well, do you not?
Absolutely. And during this campaign, there's been a lot of emphasis put on our treatment courts. And again, I wholeheartedly support those. but this job entails much, much more. That's a small portion of what the job entails. Every criminal case, every case that is a crime that's committed in Coffee County first goes to the General Sessions Court. If it's a misdemeanor, it can be handled there. If not, it's a preliminary hearing bound over to the grand jury. Any case involving the Department of Children's Services and dependency and neglect against children, placement of children, foster care, return of children, termination of parental rights are handled in this court. Our juvenile delinquent court is handled in the Sessions Court, as well as any contract or collections case under $25,000. So it encompasses and touches most of the things that come through this county, other than felonies and divorces, as well as any case in which there are children born of unwed parents. The juvenile court will make a custody determination and develop a parenting plan for those individuals. So it entails a lot.
And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of work involved in that for you if you are fortunate enough to win this position. What I might wonder though is you've got a very successful law practice. What makes you want to move into a position of a judge?
I want to serve the community. I've got a desire to do that. I grew up here. This community is important to me. I love the court family that we have. Even though I'm an attorney, we have a court family that takes care of us as attorneys as well as the judges and the court staff. I like that camaraderie of being around other people and being able to make the decisions that I think are right for victims of crime and for our youth.
Let's talk about, remind them of when the primary is and the election day. Early voting is important.
Early voting begins February 12th, runs through the 25th. That can be done at the Coffee County Election Commission. The primary is March 3rd. After March 3rd, that will be the person that is filling the position for the next 2.5 years.
Right, and that's if you're fortunate enough to win, you have to run again in 2.5 years, and it's for an 8-year term at that point.
That'd be correct.
Is that right? Okay. Take a few minutes, Greg, and just talk to the people that are watching this and tell them why you think you're the best person for this job.
I've been a part of this community for many, many years. I want to be able to serve the community. Life has happened to me. I've lived through a parenting plan as a part-time parent, where both parents were part-time parents. Anytime that you don't have your children 100% of the time, that's part-time parenting. I understand the effects that has on both parents as well as the children. I think that's given me some empathy and compassion that will allow me to make decisions that are hopefully in the best interest of parents and children. I've got experience outside the courtroom. This is my third career, but I've been in management. I've started 2 businesses from the ground up. I understand the nuances and the personalities involved, and hopefully how we can work together to get the best for both of us. There's been a lot of talk about experience in this case. I feel like I am well-rounded in the cases that would be held in this court. I've handled every type of case that will be in front of this judge. I'm in the courtroom weekly, if not daily. I have a passion to do this, and would truly, if you haven't made your mind up, would truly appreciate your vote on March 3rd.
All right. Thank you so much, and good
luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate talking to you today, folks. Please don't forget to vote on March the 3rd. And thank you so much for watching this program.